To introduce our co-chair, Gibril Faal, who is an extraordinary advocate, diaspora leader and practitioner, management consultant, business advisor, and university lecturer. I don't know if he could have any more hats than that, but he's been doing all of this for over 15 years in private, public, and charitable sector development. He's also chair of the diaspora organization African Foundation for Development, of FORD, which is based in the United Kingdom. He's also the founder of Remit Aid, a program to transform remittances into a sustainable form of international development finance using tax reliefs and other macroeconomic policies. And he's the director of the private firm GK Partners in London, which advises businesses on ethical business models, social enterprise, legal structures, ethical and Islamic finance, corporate responsibility, and governance. That's a lot of words, and that's the other thing that I would also like to say, that Gibril has the gift of being a very strong orator or storyteller or a man of words. I was very much impressed by his inputs last year at the high-level dialogue in New York. They're on YouTube. If any of you would like to be inspired, please watch them again. But I would like to very much warmly welcome Gibril Faal as our co-chair.
Thank you very much, Michelle. The topic for the 2014 Civil Society Days for Global Forum for Migration and Development is Shaping Migration and Development, Global Movement, Change on the Ground. Michelle, I've thought about it very seriously and for a very long time. And I've decided I'll talk to you about high school physics instead. My physics master told me that the first law, Newton's first law of motion, is that a body remains in rest or in perpetual motion unless compelled by some other force to act otherwise. As a young person and foolish, I said, well, that sounds a bit like the life of a teenager. A body remains in bed until forced by a parent to wake up. So you see, when I was young, I thought Newton's first law of motion was about lazy teenagers. Now I'm not young, perhaps slightly less foolish. I think Newton's first law of motion is about global movements and change on the ground. Movements of people here, there, and everywhere, and in their wake, they leave footprints of change and progress. I can visualize it. And this visualization in my mind is quite important as to what we want to achieve. Beyond movements, global movements, and change on the ground being Newtonian laws, lazy teenagers, teachers, and irrepressible mothers, we need to form a vision of where we take this. Distinguished delegates, it is a singular honor to meet and greet you all. A perennial joy to see friends and colleagues, and an exciting prospect to encounter new activists and actors in the field of migration and development. Global movement, change on the ground, is about people, isn't it? Let us not forget this in the heat of debate or in the pressures of negotiations. It is indeed about people. As humans, we have the latent power to imagine virtuous global movements and the patent ability to make progressive changes on the ground. Pray, let us not be limited by imagination or the paucity of will. And each of us in our own nation states, our institutions and organizations, can imagine and actualize fair and fine migration settlement for a world in motion. In my estimation, amongst the greatest ideas ever perceived by man or humankind is the concept of evolution with Sir Charles Darwin. Yet, after his travels in the Galapagos Islands, returning to the green fields of England and having an idea so revolutionary, at that very time, a Welshman on the Malay archipelago, Alfred Russel Wallace, had also thought about it. Some of the solutions that we need are less ambitious and less complex than those, so we can all imagine it in our different ways. How then do we normalize global movement and change on the ground? This is for us to deliberate on. And may we be guided by ambition tempered with pragmatism. I was going to say, may we have the energy to have a vibrant discussion. Then I thought this audience can indeed discuss. Maybe we shouldn't pray for more energy on that. I'm reminded by St. Augustine, who of course said, Lord, save us from incontinence and temptation, but not yet. As a guide to our deliberations, we just need to do two things: accentuate the positives and mitigate the negatives. It's no more complex than that. Perhaps one guide that would be useful in the next 2 days is a word I want to introduce you to, a word that torments and menaces the Wolof people of Senegambia. The Wolof people in the region of Senegambia are tormented by a word called tumuranke. And I want to introduce you to this word. Tumuranke, in the nearest meaning, is a sudden and total loss of social bearing. And the Wolofs of Senegambia are terrified of sudden and complete loss of social bearings. And in their mind, that happens, that is a hazardous part of the life of a migrant. For a migrant, most suddenly can find themselves without the social bearing, without friends, without family, without things they are familiar with. Well, the Wolof of Senegambia, how do they deal with their fear of tumuranke? They pray a lot. They are traumatized, but mostly they are kind to strangers. For they believe that if they are kind to strangers who come amongst their midst, that their own people will meet generosity and friendship in the wide world that they go to. So when we deliberate in these times of negotiations for a post-2015 settlement, when we deliberate on global movements and change on the ground, let us focus our minds on clarity and exactitude for want of one thing, the abolition of tumuranke and the relief of the people, the Wolof people of Senegambia, of their fear of sudden and total loss of social orientation. I thank you very much.